Carbon has been known since ancient times in the form of soot, charcoal, graphite, and diamonds. But people at that time did not know that all these substances were different forms of the same element. The word carbon was coined by the famous French scientist Antoine Lavoisier. He bought a diamond and kept it inside a closed glass jar. He then focused the rays of the sun on the diamond with the help of a high-power magnifying glass. To his astonishment, he found that the diamond burned up. He found that the diamond had combined with oxygen to form carbon dioxide. He concluded that diamond and charcoal were made of the same element, carbon. After few years, a Swedish scientist by the name of Carl Scheele showed that graphite burned to form carbon dioxide, and so it also must be another form of carbon. Later studies showed that graphite could be transformed into diamond at high temperature and high pressure. As time passed, scientists understood that almost all matter, be it living or non-living, is made up of carbon, and thus carbon became an integral part of everything around us. Hello and welcome to a new video lesson from Notebook. We are starting a new chapter today from your syllabus, which is very important from your exam perspective. So today, let us learn about the chapter Carbon and its compounds. We have divided this very important chapter into two sections, of which we are dealing with Section 1 for the time being, which has 8 topics for your better understanding. So today, let us get introduced to carbon in general. So to learn about carbon, we should first know what carbon is. Carbon is an element. To be precise, it is a non-metal. Generally, carbon is a poor conductor of heat and electricity, with a few exceptions, which we shall cover in our later topic videos. But many of us do not know that carbon derived its name from the Latin word carbo, which actually means coal. The Earth's crust has only 0.02% carbon, while the atmosphere has 0.03% carbon in the form of carbon dioxide. But students, do you know that most of the things that you see around you is actually carbon? Let us list a few items to understand it better. On the screen, you can see coal, right? We all know that it has carbon in it. We also might know that diamond also has carbon in it. But do we know that plastic bottles, detergent, soaps, wood, LPG, petrol, diesel, everything has carbon in it? The Lego blocks that children play with has carbon. Even the eraser and the pencil has carbon. Tea, alcohol, other beverages all have carbon. Even different fibers such as silk, nylon, cotton, jute, everything is made up of carbon. Many of you might be surprised to know that even we are made up of carbon. All living things are made up of carbon. We all need carbon to survive. Some sea animals with shells are perhaps the most easy examples to give, since their entire shell is made up of carbon. So students, do you see why carbon is so important? It is not only important but is special too. Let us find out how. The first reason is that carbon forms covalent bonds. To give a very brief idea of how that works, look at the screen carefully. What you see is a carbon atom and 2 oxygen atoms. They are in the process of forming our very own carbon dioxide, CO2. So, if we think of carbon and oxygen as people, it would help us remember the covalent bond formation better. Carbon has 4 marbles and the twin oxygens have 6 marbles each. But for them to be satisfied, they either need 8 total marbles each or no marbles at all. So what do? Carbon shares 2 marbles from one oxygen and 2 marbles from the other oxygen. Thus it feels that it has 8 marbles in total, and in turn, the twin oxygen atoms feel that they too have 8 marbles each in total. Thus, they are all satisfied now. In reality, carbon has 4 valence electrons and oxygen has 6 valence electrons. Carbon shares 2 valence electrons with each of the oxygen, thus satisfying the 8 valence electron rule and becomes stable. The oxygen in turn too satisfies the 8 valence electron rule and becomes stable, thus forming carbon dioxide. The second reason for carbon being so special is that carbon can self-combine to form long chain. This ability of carbon is called catenation, and perhaps this is the reason that carbon can form the backbone of almost all organic compounds. And the third reason is that carbon can exist in many different forms. The two most common forms are graphite and diamond. So students, that was a brief introduction to what carbon is. We shall of course, in our successive parts from this chapter, talk more about these characteristics of carbon and what makes it so unique in details. Until then, go through this video once more to catch those concepts better and quicker. Here's Team Notebook wishing you goodbye.